She carried dreams into her new home and left carrying scars no one could see. The law had no name for what he did to her, but her body remembered every single night. At the start of our story, we are introduced to a woman named Kamlesh, who is the eldest daughter-in-law of this household. Kamlesh is a responsible homemaker who takes care of the entire family. She has a daughter named Pinky. One day, while Pinky is playing outside, she witnesses a group of men brutally beating her uncle Arun. Arun tries his best to fight back, but since he is outnumbered, he cannot do anything. Horrified by what she sees, Pinky rushes inside and tells her mother that some men are beating up Uncle Arun outside. Without wasting a single second, Kamlesh bolts outside. Seeing her brother-in-law in this condition fills her eyes with fury. Without caring for her own safety, she charges at the attackers and starts beating them mercilessly. Within moments, the entire situation turns into complete chaos. But just then their father Shiv Kumar arrives and witnesses the whole scene. He scolds Kamlesh and tells her that she should at least find out who is at fault before jumping in. But Kamlesh, who loved Arun even more than her own son, stands her ground with complete blind faith and says, "Father, my Arun could never do anything wrong." Now the story jumps forward a few months. The family is on their way to see a girl for Arun's marriage. On the way, the mother-in-law asks, "What do you think? What kind of girl will she turn out to be?" She adds, "If she turns out to be the devotional and religious type, we will give our blessing today itself." On the other side, we get our first glimpse of the girl they are going to meet. Her name is Pooja. Pooja was not a quiet or timid girl at all. In fact, she had a bachelor's degree in English literature and was a modern, free-thinking young woman. When Arun's family arrives at Pooja's home, following old traditions, they ask her to sing a song for everyone. Now, instead of singing a devotional song, Pooja confidently sings an English song right there in front of everyone. Seeing this, Kamlesh is not pleased at all. She feels that this girl is not the right fit for their household. She even looks at Pooja and bluntly says, "Do you always wear your blouse this short?" Her message was loud and clear. This girl did not possess the quality she expected in a daughter-in-law. But Arun had fallen head over heels for Pooja. So he went after Kamlesh and kept begging and pleading with her until he finally managed to convince her. Once the relationship was confirmed, the engagement ceremony was quickly arranged and celebrated with great fanfare. Arun's ring was placed on Pooja's finger, and the two were officially engaged. A few days later, Kamlesh and her mother-in-law are riding in an auto rickshaw when they spot a massive traffic jam up ahead. Kamlesh steps out to get a better look and sees a large crowd of people marching on the street holding signs and chanting slogans. Kamlesh joins the rally out of curiosity. There she asks a girl named Sona, "What is this rally about?" Sona explains that they are fighting for the rights of the LGBT community, meaning people whose sexual orientation is a little different from what mainstream society considers normal. Kamlesh goes back and tells her mother-in-law about this. But just then, both of them spot a familiar face in the crowd, chanting slogans. That face belongs to none other than Pooja, Arun's soon-to-be bride. Seeing her well-bred future daughter-in-law marching in a rally like this on the streets completely blows Kamlesh's mind. Burning with anger, Kamlesh marches straight up to Pooja, drags her home, grabs her and demands, "Are you a lesbian too?" Pooja responds very calmly, "No, I'm not a lesbian, but I'm fighting for their human rights." This sends Kamlesh's anger through the roof. She scolds Pooja harshly and says, "You are about to become the daughter-in-law of our family. It does not suit you to put on this kind of show out on the streets. Go apologize to your mother-in-law right now and come home quietly." But Pooja was a girl with a free and independent mind. She looks Kamlesh straight in the eyes and says, "Sister-in-law, you are one of those women whose entire life begins in the kitchen and ends in that same kitchen. You have no idea what is happening in the outside world because you people do not even read the newspaper from the front page. You start from the back. I have not committed any crime, so I will not apologize to anyone." This sharp comeback bruises Kamlesh's ego badly. Furious and fuming, Kamlesh snatches the engagement ring right off Pooja's finger and publicly calls off the relationship before storming away. She tells Pooja that she will have to apologize and live by the rules and values of their household. When Kamlesh's family finds out about what she did, they turn on her immediately. Kamlesh's husband Vinay tells her, "You are going to have to go back and fix this." It was not a big deal, but Kamlesh says, "Even if God himself comes down from above, I will not apologize to her." Even so, she melts the moment her brother-in-law gets down on his knees and begs her. With sister-in-law on his lips, he manages to win her over. Sometime later, Pooja herself comes to their home. Kamlesh goes forward and apologizes to her, and admits that she does not have much knowledge of what is right and wrong, and that she has no clue about what goes on in the outside world since she has always lived at home serving the family. Cooking and running the household is all she knows. After this, Pooja also apologizes for the rally incident. With that matter settled, both families come back together. This time the wedding is officially fixed, and preparations begin in full swing. On the day of the wedding, Pooja was running a high fever and feeling dizzy. Her friend Sona, who used to protest alongside her at rallies, gives Pooja some medicine to help her get through the day. With vermilion applied and her hair parting and the 7 sacred vows taken, the wedding is completed. After all the wedding rituals are done comes that night. The night every new bride considers the most beautiful night of her life. The wedding night. Arun enters the room, and after a bit of small talk and formalities, he starts moving closer to Pooja. Pooja, who is already breaking down from pain and fever, tells Arun in very clear and direct words, "I am feeling extremely unwell. I have a high fever and my entire body is aching. Please, let us not do anything tonight." But Arun was possessed by lust and the arrogance of feeling entitled as a husband. He refused to listen to a single word Pooja said. Despite her constant pleading, crying, and refusals, Arun, in a blind and shameless act of aggression, forced himself on her. All of Pooja's golden dreams as a new bride were brutally crushed on that very bed. The rays of the morning sun crept into the room, but Pooja's world had been swallowed by darkness forever. She lay there groaning in pain and shock, unable to do anything but cry. Arun tries to quiet her down as if nothing significant had happened. He says with full entitlement, "Hey, I am your husband. This is my right. This is what happens after marriage." Hearing this, the pain inside Pooja explodes into a scream. Sobbing uncontrollably, she looks directly into Arun's eyes and says, "You took what was mine." That one word stops Arun dead in his tracks. But instead of feeling ashamed of his disgusting act, his ego feels wounded. He fires back in rage. "If you think I did something wrong, go outside and scream it to the whole world." Saying this, he mercilessly pushes Pooja out of the room. Pooja stumbles out into the hallway, crying, her clothes disheveled. She could have woken up the entire household. But just then she overhears a conversation between Kamlesh and the other women of the house. Kamlesh is saying, "Women are not as afraid of bombs going off as they are of creating a scene at home." That single line hits Pooja like a hammer blow to the head. She instantly understands that in the society and family she is standing in, opening her mouth will not bring her justice. Instead, it will only turn her own dignity into a public spectacle. Defeated by the fear of social shame and stigma, a girl who once boldly stood up for the rights of others swallows her tears and quietly returns to that same suffocating room. Somewhere deep inside her innocent heart, a tiny hope still lingered, that maybe Arun had realized the monstrousness of what he had done. Maybe he would own up to his mistake and apologize. But instead of apologizing, Arun mocks her and says, "See, I knew you could not do anything." And to teach her a lesson, that same night, he forces himself on her a second time. Pooja lies there on that bed, completely helpless, like a living corpse. The next morning, while Kamlesh is performing her prayers, she spots Pooja up on the rooftop. Seeing her up there like that gives Kamlesh a sudden jolt of alarm. She quickly rushes to Pooja and asks her, "What is the matter?" Pooja breaks down crying and says she wants to go back to her parents' home. After that, Kamlesh helps her get ready and then takes her to the kitchen because there was a tradition in this household that a new bride must cook her first meal. Once the kitchen work was done, Kamlesh already sensed that Pooja was not going to stay. So she takes Pooja home on her scooter. Back at her parents' home, when Pooja is alone with her mother, she breaks down completely and tells her mother the full horrifying truth of that dreadful night. Instead of holding her daughter close, Pooja's mother says, "Oh, come on, there is no such thing as being forced between a husband and wife. These things happen between married couples. You got married, so this is just part of it. Otherwise, how will our family line continue?" Pooja is absolutely stunned by her own mother's disgusting mindset. Her mother then snaps at her angrily, "You'll have to go back to your in-laws. If you make a scene, what will happen to our family's reputation in society?" Now Pooja had no path left and no hope to hold on to. Without any will in her heart, she begins heading back to her in-laws with Kamlesh. But on the way, Pooja cannot stop herself. She makes an excuse to use the restroom and quietly slips away. The moment Pooja disappears, the entire household is thrown into a panic. Kamlesh searches for her everywhere like a madwoman. When Pooja is nowhere to be found, Kamlesh heads to Sona's NGO to look for her there. But Sona has no idea where Pooja is either. However, she promises to find her. During their conversation, Kamlesh asks Sona, "What exactly does your NGO do?" Sona explains that they help women who are victims of domestic violence or rape. Showing her outdated thinking, Kamlesh resorts to victim blaming and says, "Women should not go out too much, and then they will stay safe." But Sona fires back with an answer that completely silences Kamlesh. Sona says, "Kamlesh ji, if women are not even safe in their own homes, in their own bedrooms, then where exactly should they go?" Soon after, Sona finds out that Pooja is sitting alone in a deserted park. Sona goes and meets Pooja and asks her, "What is the problem? You can tell me." But Pooja says nothing. Whether it was fear holding her back or shame, she simply could not speak. Sona gently reassures her and tells her she is ready to stand by her side no matter what. Sona says, "If you cannot tell me, you can talk to Kamlesh." Just then Kamlesh arrives and Sona steps away to give him space. Kamlesh sits down with Pooja and asks, "What do you want? What's your problem? How long are you going to keep running away from home like this?" Gathering every ounce of her courage, Pooja finally tells Kamlesh the truth. "Arun raped me." The moment those words land, Kamlesh slaps Pooja across the face and says, "My Arun could never do something like that. And what is there to call rape in this? This is what happens between a husband and wife." Pooja responds, "My consent matters too. He forced himself on me against my will." Regardless of everything that was said in that moment, the conversation comes to a temporary close. Kamlesh takes Pooja safely back home, where Father Shiv Kumar also tries to reason with Pooja. He tells her, "We have worked very hard to build our reputation. Do not bring it down. If there's an issue, we will resolve it together. Running away from home does not solve problems." After calming Pooja down, the matter is put to rest for now. But what Pooja had said about Arun kept gnawing at Kamlesh's mind. She goes to her husband and asks him, "A few years ago, Arun got into a fight with some boys. Why did that happen?" Her husband brushes it off, saying, "These kinds of fights happen in college all the time." Kamlesh then says that she raised Arun. So if Arun has made a mistake, she too bears some responsibility for it. So she drops the subject, saying she was just asking out of curiosity. After this, Kamlesh's daughter Pinky asks her what artificial intelligence is. Kamlesh has no idea. But their neighbor explains to Pinky that artificial intelligence means when a computer starts thinking and understanding like a human being. Kamlesh is genuinely stunned to hear this. The neighbor then mentions that this news was printed on the front page of yesterday's newspaper. Hearing this suddenly triggers a memory in Kamlesh. She recalls that Pooja had also used a word like consent. Troubled by this thought, she goes straight to Sona and asks her, "What does consent actually mean?" Sona explains that consent means having the clear and willing agreement of the other person for anything. If you want to do anything with someone, the other person's consent is absolutely necessary. It means their willing agreement, because our body belongs to us and nobody has the right to force anything on us. After hearing this, things start slowly making sense to Kamlesh. After this, the family sends Pooja and Arun off on their honeymoon. On the honeymoon, Pooja folds her hands before Arun and says, "Let us forget what happened and start fresh. Can we not become good friends before becoming husband and wife?" But that monster called Arun hears none of it. He pins Pooja down on the bed and forces himself on her again. After returning from the honeymoon, Pooja's life had turned into that of a living corpse. Arun begins to prey on her every single night. One night, Pooja lies to him, saying she's on her period. But Arun turns out to be such a degraded human being that he does not even believe her. He demands, "Show me proof that it is actually happening." With no other option left, Pooja picks up a blade and cuts herself. The next day, the family finds out that Pooja has been admitted to the hospital in very serious condition. The entire family rushes to the hospital. Arun lies to Kamlesh and says Pooja developed some kind of a women's health issue. But Kamlesh walks straight into the doctor's cabin and demands the truth. The doctor tells Kamlesh something that makes the ground shift beneath her feet. The doctor reveals that it was not a period. Pooja had cut herself with a blade on her private parts. Hearing this completely shatters Kamlesh. She then goes to Pooja's bedside, and when Pooja regains consciousness, Kamlesh asks her, "Who did this to you?" Pooja tells her, "I did this to myself." Kamlesh cannot believe that Pooja would actually do something like this. Pooja says, "Everything Arun has done to me is the truth. I would not hurt myself like this just to tell a lie. And if you still think I'm lying, you can go and check for yourself. You will know the truth." Kamlesh needed to know whether Pooja was telling the truth or not. To understand what Pooja had endured, Kamlesh wanted to feel that same pain herself. She picks up the blade and tries to cut herself, but she cannot bring herself to do it. It was not easy at all. Nobody would inflict this kind of pain on themselves just to tell a lie. Kamlesh finally realized that somewhere, Arun was at fault. She goes to Pooja and says, "Everyone who had a hand in this will be punished, even if that includes me." Sometime later, when Arun arrives at the hospital, he asks about his wife. He is told she has already been discharged and sent home. He then goes to meet the doctor and asks her how many days it will be before he can resume physical relations with his wife. At that moment, the doctor did not yet know who he was talking about. But once she realizes this is Pooja's husband, she absolutely loses it. She tears into him, saying that it is because of him that his wife harmed herself, and all he can think about is getting back to physical relations. She then calls the security guard and has him thrown out. Arun is shaken to the core hearing all of this. He realizes that because of him, Pooja could have taken her own life. Out of pure fear, he rushes back home. Meanwhile, Kamlesh brings Pooja home. They could have gone straight to the police station. But Kamlesh does not do that. She tells Pooja, "We will speak to father first. He will make the right decision. If needed, we will call the police and have Arun sent to jail." Sometime later, when Arun comes home, he finds out that the face-revealing ceremony is taking place inside. Because of this, he is not allowed to meet Pooja. Kamlesh tells him, "You will be punished for what you have done, and you will go to jail." Arun defends himself, saying, "She is my wife. This is my right. These things happen between husbands and wives. What exactly did I do wrong?" The next morning after the ceremony ends, Kamlesh tells everyone in the household the truth, that Arun forced himself on Pooja. At Shiv Kumar's urging, Arun offers an apology and the matter is declared closed right there. But both Pooja and Kamlesh wanted Arun to face real consequences. So Kamlesh goes to speak to Father Shiv Kumar in private. She tells him, "You cannot keep brushing our voices aside like this." Kamlesh says, "We are daughters-in-law of this house too. At the very least, our words should be heard." She says, if Pooja is saying something, she is not lying. Shiv Kumar responds that fine, he accepts that. But he wants to know exactly what she wants. Does she want to call the police to their home? Does she want to send Arun to jail? He says Arun has already apologized and it will not happen again. But Kamlesh insists that Arun must be handed over to the police. Shiv Kumar flatly refuses and says, that will never happen. The police have never set foot on our doorstep, and they never will. Hearing this, Kamlesh thinks for a moment and then says, if you will not take action, then we will have to. She was ready to go against her own family. Shiv Kumar responds, if you want to go against this family, then you will first have to leave this house. You cannot stand inside this house and work against the people in it. After this, Shiv Kumar packs up their belongings. Pooja, Kamlesh, and Kamlesh's daughter Pinky are all thrown out of the house together. Shiv Kumar believed they had nowhere to go and that they were being foolish. He was convinced that they would come crawling back to his doorstep in no time. And in a way, Shiv Kumar was right. Kamlesh does return and touch his father's feet, asking for his blessings. But she had not come to beg for forgiveness. She had come to seek his blessings before moving forward. After receiving them, she leaves again. Kamlesh takes everyone to her grandfather's home. After meeting with him, she tells him everything. Grandfather explains that no legal case for marital rape has ever been filed in this country. There is no law in place for it. So legally they cannot do much. However, to teach the family a lesson, they can file a dowry harassment case against them. In that case, bail is not easy to get, and the entire family could be sitting behind bars for months. Pooja says, fine, file the dowry case. But the problem was that people who were not guilty would also end up in jail because of this case. Kamlesh did not want that. She wanted Arun punished for the rape, not for dowry harassment. But given the limitations of the legal system, they're forced to file the dowry case. The case is filed, and Arun along with his parents lands behind bars. However, bail is granted very quickly. Meanwhile, on the other side, Shiv Kumar sets out with both his sons, saying he's going to bring his daughters-in-law back home. On the way, he has the car turned toward Pooja's parents' home. Vinay asks why they're going there. Shiv Kumar says he wants to meet Pooja's father alone before doing anything else. Once they arrive, he sends everyone else outside and has a private conversation with Pooja's father, and then plays his real card. He tells him that Pooja should come home and touch everyone's feet and ask for forgiveness. But Pooja's father refuses and says he will not send his daughter back. Just then, Shiv Kumar secretly mixes sleeping pills into a glass of water and has Pooja's father drink it. He had also pre-booked a hospital room to make it look like a medical emergency. In other words, he engineered a situation so clever that he would not have to do anything himself, and his daughter-in-law would come running back on her own. Just then, Pooja's brother rushes in and says their father has collapsed and fallen unconscious. Hearing this, Pooja races straight to the hospital. Seeing her father in that condition breaks Pooja apart completely, and she begins to cry. Then her father says, Pooja, you should go back to your in-laws. Arun steps forward, remorseful, and says, look at what Papa has done to himself because of us. Please come back home. Pooja turns to Kamlesh and says, I do not want to go back home. But then her father folds his hands before her in desperation, and she finally gives in and goes back to her in-laws. The daughter-in-law had returned, and on the surface, everything in the house seemed back to normal. But then comes the biggest surprise of this entire story. The old grandmother of the house, who had not uttered a single word in years, suddenly speaks. She calls both daughters-in-law to her and says, if you stay quiet right now, the same thing will happen again. Whatever is being done to you, you must raise your voice. You do not have to do much. You just have to tell people what is happening to you. If you are afraid to speak up in front of others, nothing will ever change. There is still time. You must break your silence and tell everyone the truth. Everything seemed to have settled down, so a prayer ceremony was organized at home. All the women and men from the household and the neighborhood had gathered together. This was Pooja's moment. Standing before everyone, she speaks. She says, without my consent, Arun has had physical relations with me. He raped me, and not just once. Ever since we got married, he's been raping me repeatedly. I have started to live in fear of him. Shiv Kumar immediately stands up and tries to silence Pooja. He even asks everyone to leave. But just then Kamlesh steps in and stops all the women from going anywhere. She speaks to every woman present and says, we must raise our voices against this. If we do not speak up, if we stay silent, this will keep happening to women over and over again. Our time has passed, but when this happens to our sisters and daughters, there will be nobody to stand up and get them justice. Right at that moment, Arun walks up to Pooja and tells her to come with him and leave. When Pooja steps back, he even tries to slap her. But Kamlesh grabs his hand and stops him. And then it is Kamlesh herself who slaps him hard across the face. Kamlesh then turns to Arun and says, this will not only be decided in a court of law. This family and this society will also have their say. And right there, she delivers her verdict. From today, all of Arun's rights are revoked. He must fall at Pooja's feet and beg for her forgiveness. Looking Arun dead in the eyes, Kamlesh announces his complete social boycott. From this day forward, not a single woman in this household will have any relationship with you. You will not be allowed to participate in any prayer ceremony or any ritual. And when my daughter Pinky gets married, you will not even be allowed to carry her palanquin on your shoulder. Today, other than your father, not a single person is standing by your side. That means you are a monster. Seeing himself cut off from his entire family and society, all of Arun's arrogance shatters. He breaks down sobbing and falls at Pooja's feet begging, please forgive me. I will never do this again. I will change. But Pooja was no longer that helpless girl. She pulls her feet back and says, a simple sorry does not heal the wounds carved into a body and a soul. Today you're asking for forgiveness. Tomorrow you will do the same thing again. I know that today our country does not have a strict law against marital rape. But remember this, the day that law comes into effect in this country, the very first case I will file will be against you. And I will spend the rest of my life waiting for that day. And with that, this story comes to an end. So friends, what did you think of this movie? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell icon so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. See you in the next one. Till then, bye-bye, take care.